Aloha mai kako. You are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
Need a break? Had enough already? Tonight, Roast and Toast. Some really cool stuff. You will laugh, cry, learn, and enjoy. This will be different, and this show, I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. Stay tuned. There's lots of cool things coming up.
The American system is designed to eliminate political opposition, like some of the dictatorships that we criticize that have rigged political systems. In many ways, the American system is also rigged, but in ways that are not as straightforward. So you have to actually see what it takes to get on the ballot if you're not already on as one of the big machine parties. Each state has its own set of rules, which are very demanding, very detailed and bureaucratic, and require lots of signatures in order to get on the ballot. So for the most part, you need a lot of money, many millions of dollars, to buy your way onto the ballot, basically by hiring signature gatherers and people to keep track of this. We are a real political party. We're not just the storefront that looks like it's Main Street but is actually funded by Wall Street. That's what the other political parties are. They pretend to really have public support, but what they really have is the support of the 1%, and then they have a propaganda campaign going on. And 1 out of every 2 Americans is now either in poverty or low income. Americans are really hurting and are desperate for solutions which they are not getting. So there is a rebellion that is in full swing. Occupy speaks for that rebellion. We saw in polls early on that a majority of Americans, a substantial majority of Americans, was very sympathetic and supportive of the agenda that Occupy was articulating.
But with the majority.
So Mitt Romney is Wall Street, he's the wolf in a wolf's clothing. Barack Obama is the wolf in a sheep's clothing. But they both essentially have the same agenda. He has a lot of sort of machismo and bravado, and he beats the war drum. He wants to, really flex muscle against Iran. But, so too does the Obama administration, though they're a little bit more, they're less warmongering about it, but they're basically in agreement about coming down very hard on Iran and holding no options off the table. So they both threaten to use war where we should be using diplomacy.
I have already intimated to you the danger of parties in the state, with particular reference to the founding of them on geographical discriminations. Let me now take a more comprehensive view, and warn you in the most solemn manner against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. This spirit, unfortunately, is inseparable from our nature, having its root in the strongest passions of the human mind. It exists under different shapes in all governments, more or less stifled, controlled, or repressed, but in those of the popular form it is seen in its greatest rankness, and is truly their worst enemy. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. And sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purposes of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought not to be entirely out of sight, the common and continual mischiefs of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and duty of a wise people to discourage and restrain it. It serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the door to foreign influence and corruption, which finds a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. Thus the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and will of another. There is an opinion that parties in free countries are useful checks upon the administration of the government, and serve to keep alive the spirit of liberty. This, within certain limits, is probably true, and in governments of a monarchical caste, patriotism may look with indulgence, if not with favor, upon the spirit of party. But in those of the popular character, in governments purely elective, it is a spirit not to be encouraged. From their natural tendency, it is certain there will always be enough of that spirit for every salutary purpose, and there being constant danger of excess, the effort ought to be by force of public opinion to mitigate and assuage it. A fire not to be quenched, it demands a uniform vigilance to prevent its bursting into a flame, lest, instead of warming, it should consume.
I would know one thing: if Obama wanted change and change of the system, at least exposure, he could do something. But, you know, he got nearly $1 million from Goldman Sachs. So we don't expect anything from the administration. The same people, you know, whether this to me is a perfect example of my argument that I've made, and I think you generally agree with it. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two parties.
No.
You know, they're owned by the same people. You know, they're owned by the same people. You know, they're owned by the same people.
question is on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Any other chair? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. The answer is no.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Anyway, it's funny.
Can you say it was done openly? With transparency and accountability? Without backroom deals and struck behind closed doors? Hidden from the people? Hell no, you can't!
What's up, John? Job well done. I promise that our nation will never forget.
Both parties share the blame for this. Make no apologies for it.
I'm learning to say y'all.
Oh, God. We don't stand a chance.
There's rebellion going on in America, and these people are out of control. It's important.
Good morning, folks. I'm Bob Smith with a news update from SHEEP Radio. The hacker group, which calls itself Anonymous, has announced today that they have acquired the results from the upcoming elections and have posted those results on the internet. Let's go to our Washington correspondent, Jim Haley, for more details. Jim?
Right, Frank. According to these documents, which hackers claim were extracted from electronic voting machines last Friday, the winner of the upcoming elections will be the smooth-talking, warmongering liar who is bought and paid for by the financial elites. Now, this news is obviously shaking things up in a big way in Washington, and there are some who are even talking about canceling the elections because of the leak.
I'm sorry, Jim, I must have missed something there. Based on that description, I'm not exactly sure which candidate you're referring to.
Right, well, considering that they're both bought and paid for by the same corporations, our sources tell us that it doesn't really matter. Whichever clown you choose to vote for in this next election, it isn't going to change the next 4 years one bit. Experts tell us that you really shouldn't worry because the wars are scheduled to continue, the government's going to take away more of your freedoms, and they will keep bailing out their banker buddies either way. And most of those who voted for the scumbag who does win will keep blindly defending him regardless of what he does. Back to you, Frank.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, Jim. Up next, we're going to be talking to Jennifer Lopez's doctor about her butt implants. Stay tuned.
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Americans, they don't want to be free. That's the reality of the matter. I think they're free. They'll say they're free. They'll talk about freedom up, down, left, and right. They wouldn't know freedom if it slapped them in the face. And I've been thinking about this for some time now. I think I can tell you with some certainty why Americans don't want to be free. It's because America has become a nation of grown children, those that are actually adults. They're looking for a perpetual mom and a dad. And, you know, sadly, this is the case even in people who claim that they're awake. Not everybody, obviously, but it's pretty epidemic. And to me, it's evidenced when you see people who will look at the description of a problem, and rather than saying, oh, what can I do about this? They turn to you and say, well, why did you show me this problem? Why don't you just show me the solution? The thing is, the solution is right there. It's right there in front of everybody. It should be obvious. But people don't want to see it because it implies taking responsibility for the situation, not just asking someone else to hand it to you. And essentially what people are asking for when they say, give us a solution, they're asking for a ready-made, easy-bake oven Betty Crocker recipe. You know, just add water, 1 egg, some oil, heat for 350 degrees for 20 minutes, and there you go. You know, let's fix the world. And this brings me back to my original point, that Americans don't want to be free. Because essentially what you're saying when you ask someone else to hand you their solution is you're asking them to decide for you how you should live. That's not freedom. If you guys have other topics that you want me to cover, be sure to subscribe to my SCG Walks channel. And on that channel I do more question and answer type format, so much more chance of having the issue that you're interested in addressed. Talk to you guys later.
Hello friends, family, and community. I'm Jill Stein, candidate for president with the Green Party. I'm checking in for the first time by video to bring you directly the voice of our campaign for democracy, peace, and justice in the 2012 election. In the holiday season, there's always talk about hope, so I wanted to offer a few words about real hope and the change that hope depends on. I'm not talking about the hype of the last election, where hope was a slogan and change was something to believe in, but not actually to accomplish. I'm talking about real hope for deep change, the kind that's breaking out all over because so many people like you are standing up and refusing to accept this unprecedented state of inequality, austerity, and perpetual war that we're in. Instead, you are demanding the peaceful, just, green future that we all deserve. And that is the real source of hope, not only for the holidays, but for every day going forward to a better future that is within our reach. I want to mention briefly 3 policy changes announced by the White House last week going into the holiday season. Changes that continue taking us in the wrong direction. First, President Obama announced that he will sign the National Defense Authorization Act. This allows the president to basically take away your right to a trial by jury, the presumption of your innocence, and your protection against the use of the military against you as a citizen on U.S. soil. The bill allows you to be declared essentially an enemy of the state based on mere suspicion on the part of this or any future president. No evidence needs to be produced to justify the president's suspicion. You don't even need to be accused of a crime, nor tried and found guilty. In signing the law, President Obama will basically eliminate your rights guaranteed in the 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments of our federal Constitution. Second, the president retreated from his previous position on the Keystone Pipeline. We are teetering on the brink of climate catastrophe, and the president had rightly promised to veto any legislation advancing the pipeline, but no longer. In a reversal, the White House announced its agreement for a rush decision on the pipeline as a sweetener in a deal to continue the payroll tax cut for 2 months, as if our climate future could be thrown around like a small bargaining chip. It demonstrates again the willingness of the Obama White House to sell out the climate for political convenience.
Obama, Romney, who's more committed to minding other people's business? Who's got your vote for Nanny of the Month? Special interactive election edition. Drug war, both say aye. Pot legalization, both say nay. Romney's against medical marijuana, and the former Chum Gang toker continues to sic federal agents on dispensaries.
Did you inhale? That was the point.
Obamacare's got that individual mandate, the same thing Mitt stuck the Bay State with. The Gov signed a statewide smoking ban, and Obama's Recovery Act stimulated local smoking bans.
Hey, wait a second. We have civil liberties we have to worry about.
Patriot Act, warrantless surveillance, National Defense Authorization Act, indefinite detention, they both back all of it. Romney opposes gay marriage. Obama's all for it, as of this year. Obama has cracked down on online poker, and don't expect Romney to be any better. The Pres flirts with censorship. Romney promises to punish pornographers. Then again, the queen of porn has gotten behind Mitt, and Obama busted buckyballs. So who's your nanny, America? Click the screen to vote for the candidate you think is the biggest busybody.
Kim here, and I found somebody really important. This is Nicolas Cage. No, really. Tell us who you are and what you're doing here.
My name is Martin Blackwell, and I own the Rapid Resolution Center for Change and Optimum Resource Management. And I'm here actually just to be here as a part of the community process and offer the thoughts on general process that will determine whether we optimize our health and our resource management for the future.
And you got a great big round of applause. Can you tell us what you said to him in there?
Basically what I did was I shared from the eyes of change, because change is the one thing that is constant, as we know, and they say that change is not the problem but our resistance to it. So unless we're willing to stare change in the face, we'll never understand our stress response, which affects everything and all of our relationships and our ability to unify and optimize our health and future. I'd be happy to share this with you if you'd like from the eyes of change.
I would love to hear that, because that's a fear of the unknown is what we're fearing, right?
Beautiful. Thank you very much for cutting to the chase. Okay, but for the people out there who might don't see it quite as easily, I would love to share this.
I'd love to hear it.
From the eyes of change, I see you adults struggling to know what is best. Be careful not to fight like children, claiming that what they have is better. Rather than sharing your toys, your personal perceptions, try not to shoot down each other's views out of fear, rather than combining them in the middle for optimum resolution and results. Be careful not to claim to know with certainty what you cannot, as you can all be blind to your own need for comfort and how it rules you. You may claim, don't worry, this is best for community, yet whatever you promote is best for you and your specific family, and not necessarily for the greater community. You may say, oh, they are just overreacting and resisting change. Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps you are selfishly unaware of your own selfish fear-driven greed for comfort. Maybe their fear is valid that the greater community is changing not for the better, but ultimately for the worse. Perhaps there is a better way that you have yet to see, as you are perhaps blinded by knowing. Were you ever wrong? You did not think so at the time. What if this is one of those times? You cannot know, you cannot see the future. You can easily blindly roll forward like a moth into the light, seeking excessive comfort. And when their wings are burned, it is too late. You larger groups or corporations can go blindly into other areas to develop and end up frequently raping the resources for your own unaware, selfish, fear-driven greed. The families may overreact, resisting to change and the fear of uncertainty it delivers. You may underreact, unaware that what you do is only best for you and your family, as the greedy addiction to escaping discomfort destroys the very greater community you claim to be helping. You can only fool yourselves. I see you, hiding frequently from the truth of change, the unchanging truth, certain uncertainty. Is it change for the better or worse? Better for everyone? Or better for you, but worse for who? Look in the mirror, my friends. Stare the truth in the face. You are all afraid. Be with your fears. Share your hopes. You all have the same ones deep inside. Come unify in the middle to combine your awareness for maximum benefit to community, where the known and the unknown dance together. Drop your shield of false certainty and knowing. Open your minds and be willing to completely change your perception and plan. An open mind is willing to doubt everything it believes and believe everything it doubts. Otherwise, leave the process. You are no friend of mine or community. You are the enemy of progress and unity, crippling yourselves, your family, and your community while I watch and hold you accountable to your deeper insecure self. Unite in the middle to share perceptions as if they may or may not be correct. Go forward open to change, or the same unaware fear, greed, and selfish non-unity addiction will further destroy yourselves, your families, and community. Remember to breathe together, and if tension rises, be quiet immediately. Breathe, and let the tension, fear, and anger subside. The truth only comes in the calm, between the waves of change. I will be watching. Remember, breathe.
Boy, I don't know about you, but I'm going to rewind that on khpr.net and play it 5 or 6 times. That was fantastic. Thank you very, very much.
My deep gratitude to all of you, and may you breathe easy in the winds of change that are coming. They're already here.
American Constitution 1913, corrupt in the system, devalue dollar, hyperinflation, the Federal Reserve, controlled by Lucifer. He can see you lying.